Waters World is on tonight.
I read the papers, I see what's going on television, I see the lies.
You saw the interview, but what happened behind the scenes when O'Reilly sat down with President Trump? The No Spin Zone enters Waters World.
Fake news is the worst thing that you can call a journalist. It's like an ethnic disparagement.
The mainstream media now comparing fake news to the N-word. We'll take you through a rundown of fake stories and real news stories that you might not have heard before. And Waters World hits the snowstorm in search of global warming. And I go to the front lines of an anti-Trump protest.
The countries that he's blocked, they're not terrorist countries.
Iran's not a terrorist country?
No.
It's the #1 sponsor of terrorism in the world. Waters World begins right now. Welcome to Waters World. I'm your host, Jesse Waters. So much happening this week. The far left is in a frenzy, and noticeably so. The leading ladies of Congress heading up the charge against President Trump, but appear to be a little flustered, making a lot of mistakes. Take a look.
When I've talked about leading him to impeachment, what I'm really saying is he has done enough in the short period of time for questions to be raised about whether or not he's acting in the best interest of this country. And the fact that he is wrapping his arms around Putin while Putin is continuing to advance into Korea.
So this, while it's only a couple of weeks since the inauguration, there's complete evidence, we've seen nothing that we can work, well, I can work with President Bush on.
Mr. President, I am surprised that the words of Coretta Scott King are not suitable for debate in the United States Senate. I ask leave of the Senate to continue my remarks.
Is there objection?
Object.
I appeal the ruling.
Objection is heard. The senator will take her seat.
Now, these are smart women who've been in Congress a very long time. So why do they seem rattled by this president? Bill O'Reilly leaving the no spin zone for a trip to Waters World. Oof. So these women, Trump is driving them crazy, not the way Trump usually drives women crazy. What do you think is it about Trump's style that's provoking these ladies so much?
Well, I mean, at the core of it is ideology, political ideology. They are pro-choice ladies. That's always a big thing.
But he's not a pro-life guy.
No, but he has made it clear that he's gone over to that camp, that he wants judges that will be favorable to the pro-life people. So you start there, and then you know, the president's been demonized in certain quarters about his conduct. And so there isn't any common ground. That's the key. No common ground between Nancy Pelosi, Maxine Waters, and Donald Trump. None.
Do you think that the Democratic Party has a strategy to push these women to be the vanguard of the anti-Trump movement, or are they just getting excited and they're just taking the lead?
They're playing to their constituency. They have very liberal districts, and you know, they're feminists, I guess, and they're playing to their people.
And these so-called feminists are attacking every single woman aligned with Trump. They're going after Betsy DeVos, the education woman. They're going after Ivanka now. Now Kellyanne Conway's in the crosshairs.
Absolutely.
I thought these women are supposed to like other women in power.
Not if they disagree with them politically.
So it's all politics.
Well, you saw in the Women's March that the pro-life groups weren't allowed to participate.
Right.
The pro-life women couldn't march in a Women's March.
Right.
So I think the facade is pretty much destroyed. It's all about politics.
Are you surprised by the hatred against President Trump?
I warned him. I told him very early on this was going to happen because he's out of the mainstream, not beholden to anyone, and he's running up against the far left. I mean, the far left just hates him.
When you interviewed the president, and I know you've interviewed a few presidents, was there anything different about President Trump behind the scenes that we don't know about?
I think he was more focused than I haven't seen him since he was elected. And he was focused. That day when he interviewed us in the White House, I sat in on a meeting with economic advisors, a bunch of pinheads sitting around trying to figure out the economy. He was in total command of the meeting. And there were big names here, big economic names. And he went down. Not a lot of chit-chat. He was busy. knocked out the interview for 35 minutes, very focused, paid attention. So the one thing that I noticed in socializing with him is he'd be all over the place, you know? We'd be talking about the Mets and we'd be talking about this, but here, very locked in, very focused.
I think he actually may work harder than you because you asked him what your average day is like. We actually have a clip of it right here.
How many hours a day you working?
I'm working long hours, right up till 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the morning.
What time do you get up?
5 o'clock.
All right. And you're working after you have breakfast and stuff?
I read the papers, I see what's going on television, I take a look, I see the lies, the lies.
So he wakes up at 5 o'clock in the morning.
I don't think he sleeps at all. I think he's just a vampire.
He's just tweeting and
he's just whatever. Got to keep the gadgets away. But he's never really gotten a lot of sleep. But he's into it. He's consumed by the job.
I've been consumed with my job over the years. The 300th Waters World. Thank you very much for letting me do this.
Sure.
And also you're welcome for giving you all these great ratings.
Are you taking credit for the ratings of the Factor?
No, just for that
It
small
might be
section.
a little cocky.
I learned it from you. I heard you wanted to take a look at the first Waters World episode. We have a clip right here. Michelle Obama says she doesn't want young people on Facebook. Do you agree with that?
Depending on the age. Like, I don't think 12-year-olds should be on Facebook.
Are you worried about them? Why?
Because they put that they're 18 and they're 13. I'm like, whoa, she said 18.
Have you ever been in trouble for doing that?
They tried.
Who's they?
Well, the detective.
So you find a felon to talk about. All right. No, we can convict the kid. We're not doing that.
Alleged felon.
Now, how long ago was that again?
Was that 6 years ago?
6 years ago,
Yeah.
Waters.
What do
Look,
you
have
think?
you aged? Look at Waters.
I think I look better.
Back then or now?
Now. I think I look better now. Did you see the hair? I mean, it was all over the map.
Yeah.
I don't even think I had a hairstyle.
Well, now they pay for your haircuts.
Thank God. We need that. Well, thank you very much, Phil, and thanks for taking the time.
All right.
Coming up, Ivanka Trump's clothing dumped by big-name stores for underperforming. But is it really just a jihad against conservatives? We've got the sales numbers they don't want you to see. Plus, Waters World back inside an anti-Trump protest, hoping to find someone who knows why they're there.
He's racist. He's against African Americans. He said that black people are ignorant.
He did?
Yeah.
When was that?
He said it.
We got people tweeting us, Facebooking us, emailing us, texting us, letting us know that they cutting up your card. So if you don't get it together, Nordstrom's is going to be a no store.
Those are our friends Diamond and Silk, very upset after Ivanka Trump's highly successful clothing was dumped by several stores this week, including Nordstrom, for supposedly lagging sales. White House senior advisor Kellyanne Conway went on the offensive with this.
Go buy Ivanka's stuff is what I would tell you. I hate shopping. I'm going to go get some on myself today. It's a wonderful line. I own some of it. I'm going to give a free commercial here. Go buy it today, everybody. You can find it online.
That statement got her in hot water. Now even Republican Congressman Jason Chaffetz is on the attack. He's chairman of the House Oversight Committee and wants an ethics investigation. Now you'll see the mainstream media run with that storyline. But this isn't about ethics. It's about political jihad on conservative women by the left. If Ivanka Trump's father was a Democrat, wouldn't we be hearing about girl power? Here to discuss, Fox Business Network's Dagen McDowell and Fox News contributor Leslie Marshall. So, Leslie, we got some numbers, and Ivanka Trump's company is private, but we found out that the Ivanka Trump brand 2016 revenue is up 21% over last year. Her clothing line did about $100 million in revenue, and they've grown from about 800 stores to almost 1,000. They're in Macy's, Bloomingdale's, Lord & Taylor. So is this really about profitability, or is it about politics?
I think it's a bit of both. I mean, as an owner of a company, you have the right to refuse service and you have the right to refuse carrying a certain brand, whether it's because it was made overseas, whether it's because your sales personally. You're talking about her company's numbers. What are the actual figures when people did boycott Nordstrom when they found out that her products were being sold there?
So the product is doing really well in 1,000 stores. and they're not doing well in the 5 stores that dropped her. It doesn't make sense. You also said something that, an owner of a business can do whatever they want. When the Christian bakers didn't want to bake a gay wedding cake for a couple, they were maligned viciously. Isn't that discrimination? And then you have Nordstrom dropping Ivanka. Isn't that also discrimination? Which one is it, Leslie?
No, I don't think I don't think that having the power to shop where you choose as a consumer, where I spend my money, that's my choice. And quite frankly, I defend somebody's right to say, look, you do legally have the right to refuse a service. We see those signs everywhere. If there is a violation of law when you're discriminating against someone based on, for example, gender or race or religion, that is very different.
So that's wrong, but you can't let me ask Dagan, so you can't discriminate against Republicans or Democrats? Is that allowed?
It's perfectly okay to discriminate against Republicans. Let's call these businesses what they would be called if Ivanka Trump was the daughter of a Democrat.
Yeah.
They would be called sexist. They would be called misogynist. They would be lambasted as racist, as discriminatory. That's exactly what would be going on. But it's okay to target Ivanka. It's okay to go after the First Lady and be some fashion designer, Sophie, bleh, and Tom Ford saying, I'm not going to dress Melania Trump.
Yeah, and you know what?
Again,
if
they get
Ivanka,
away with it, and it's repugnant.
It's true, because if Ivanka really wanted to profit off of her White House connections, she'd have everyone in the White House wearing her clothing line. Now, we have a picture of Eric Nordstrom. He's one of the co-presidents at Nordstrom's. He is a Hillary donor. And a bunch of the other CEOs from some of the other 5 outlets that dropped Ivanka, big-time Democrat donors, so there's that. Now, this is Donald Trump on Twitter responding to what he considers unfair treatment. My daughter Ivanka has been treated so unfairly by Nordstrom. She is a great person, always pushing me to do the right thing. Now, as a matter of fact, Harry Truman, when he was president, went after someone who wrote a nasty review of his daughter when she was performing while she was singing. I actually think we have some of the excerpt. He hits back at the critics. Someday, I hope to meet you. When that happens, you'll need a new nose, a lot of beefsteak for black eyes, and perhaps a supporter below. So it's okay to defend your daughter when she's under attack, correct?
Can you imagine if social media had existed even in a small way back in Harry Truman's day? He's threatening to beat the living bejesus out of this guy.
You're going to need beefsteaks for your eyes.
And Kellyanne Conway comes out and just defends her boss's daughter, frankly. And now, there's going to be a big ethics investigation with taxpayer money. That's really useful.
All right. Well, Leslie, I got to run because we got to go to the break. But listen, there's a lot of other things to investigate, like the swamp, besides little Ivanka trying to sell some threads. Thank you guys very much. Still to come, you've heard the president talk about fake news, but have you actually seen the stories? The mistakes are stunning. I'll give you my take. And these protesters hate Trump's extreme vetting plan, but why?
The countries that he's blocked, they're not terrorist countries.
Iran's not a terrorist country?
No.
It's the #1 sponsor of terrorism in the world.
More mind-boggling interviews coming up. This is a Fox News alert. Big news coming out of the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, who has upheld the suspension of President Trump's travel ban. A decision that has many shaking their heads, including Virginia's former Attorney General Ken Cuccinelli.
The due process was the cornerstone of the court's decision, yet they gave due process rights to people who do not have due process rights. People in Somalia who've never been to this country, people in Syria who've never been to this country, they don't have due process rights. They don't have constitutional rights of any kind.
A staggering 77% of refugees allowed into the United States since Judge Robart's order last week have been from the 7 countries with known terror ties. Nearly a third of them are from Syria alone, a country whose own leader, President Assad, admits some of those who fled to the U.S. are terrorists. Absolutely absurd. Yet still, people here in the U.S. are protesting Mr. Trump's executive orders, but many don't seem to know why. Earlier this week, I hit up a student protest in New York City. Roll the tape.
Are you cutting class to go to this protest?
Yes.
Which class?
I would have missed any class, but it happened to be lunch.
I'll go turn the fryers back on and throw some wings in for you.
Tell me what wingy.
I was cutting my calculus class. I have a test.
Well, what happens when the teacher fails you?
I think that if he fails me, he's an ass.
I'm missing geometry and PE.
You don't like gym?
Wouldn't kill you. We play some competitive sports.
Do your teachers know you're cutting?
Yeah, many of them were just like, we understand a lot of you aren't going to be here tomorrow. Good for you.
What exactly are you ladies here to protest?
I would say I'm here to protest the ban on immigrants and refugees.
The travel ban. That's un-American.
What he's doing is just not right, and it's fascism. It's not democracy.
We're protesting against Trump. He wants to ban people from this country, and it's kind of sad when you don't like a person for what they look like.
What don't you like about Trump?
He's racist. He's against African Americans. He said that black people are ignorant.
He did?
Yeah.
When was that?
He said it. I could change what I said.
You were chanting that America was never great earlier. Do you believe that?
It's a chant. It rhymes. 5, 6, 7, 8. America was never great.
But you know America was pretty great when we defeated the Nazis.
This is not good here.
Which nations are on the temporary travel ban list?
Well, as of right now, I'm not completely sure about the actual countries.
Libya, Iraq, pretty sure Afghanistan, Lebanon, many like
This isn't turning out the way I wanted it to.
It's all the nations that he wants, just not in America. That's bad phrasing, and I'm on TV.
Boy, what a great show.
Why don't you want people extremely vetted before they come here from those countries?
Why should they be extremely vetted?
Because those are havens of terrorism.
America's a haven of terrorism.
If you think America is so bad, you should try Syria.
You can't even set foot in the parking lot.
The countries that he's blocked, they're not terrorist countries.
Iran's not a terrorist country?
No.
It's the #1 sponsor of terrorism in the world.
What you talking about, Willis?
Do you believe in borders?
If you're cool and all, you're coming in to help me. I'm cool with that, but you're not coming here to mess things up.
So don't you want to check to see if someone's cool before you let them in?
Well, of course, you always want to check. That's why we have our airports.
And that's why we want extreme vetting, right?
Of course. But
so you do agree with the Trump ban? What does your sign say on the back?
On the back it says punch a Nazi.
Wait, I thought you don't believe in violence.
I do believe in violence, not gun violence.
So just these things?
Yeah.
I've got Jack Johnson and Tom O'Leary waiting for you.
I'm an immigrant. I'm from South Africa. Do you think I need to be extremely vetted?
After some of the comments you made, yes.
I'm just being humorous.
A big thanks to O'Reilly producer Rob Monica, who edited that piece. And we wanted to know what you thought. Your comments have been pouring in. Drew Vincek says, I apologize for my generation. Apology not accepted. Rebecca Stevenson writes, those kids learned more from Jesse Watters than they would have learned if they had stayed in class. Yes, Watters' World is a learning experience. And Glenn tweets, Watters making himself feel smart by trying to trap protesting high school students pathetic. I don't need to do that to feel smart. I am smart. Up next, CNN's Chris Cuomo said what?
Fake news is the worst thing that you can call a journalist. It's like an ethnic disparagement.
So comparing fake news is the same thing as saying the N-word? I'll show you the incredible fake news stories out there and let you decide. Plus, as the Northeast digs out from a massive February snowstorm, I hit the streets to see if people believe the global warming hype. You know what I call all this?
Winter Wonderland?
Global warming.
It's climate change.
You know what I call climate change? The seasons.
I always got sort of good press. You know, I was a business guy. I got good press. I did good.
I know.
I have never, I call it, fake news. Some of the networks and some of the papers, it's so the level of dishonesty where they'll take a story that should be good. I know good from bad.
That was Donald Trump speaking with Bill O'Reilly about fake news. But CNN's Chris Cuomo took it very personally.
Fake news is the worst thing that you can call a journalist. It's like an ethnic disparagement. We all have these ugly words for people. That's the one for journalists.
Now, I've never met Cuomo, but he seems like an all right guy. But the phrase fake news is equivalent to the N-word? I don't think so. So tonight, we're going to begin a segment examining fake news stories that have been pushed by the mainstream media since Donald Trump's election. Everyone's familiar with the fake news story about the MLK bus being removed from the Oval Office and the phony intelligence report about Trump and Russia. But the Federalist's Daniel Payne put together a fantastic rundown of some of the other fake news stories that you may not have heard about. Here's some big ones. After Trump's victory on November 8th, rumors spread online that transgender teens were killing themselves in response. A Guardian writer tweeted out this unsubstantiated rumor, and then the lie spread. Multiple other outlets picked it up, and at the end of the month, the story had been shared nearly 100,000 times just on Facebook alone. The original tweet was deleted, but there was no factual basis for it. Nevertheless, it was whipped up an incredible amount of anti-Trump hysteria, completely irresponsible. Number 2. On November 22nd, New York Magazine writer Gabriel Sherman dropped a bombshell, asserting prominent computer scientists and election lawyers were demanding a recount in Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania because there was evidence of hacking or manipulation. The story went viral on Politico, Reuters, and the New York Times, and even MSNBC. But the very next day, it turned out it was demographics, not hacking, which explained the inconsistencies that Sherman was pushing as evidence. The damage had already been done. And fake news like this significantly contributed to the perception among many Americans that Trump's election was illegitimate. Politico's Lorraine Wohlert published a report in early December claiming that Trump's Treasury pick, Steve Mnuchin, had overseen a company that, quote, foreclosed on a 90-year-old woman after a 27-cent payment error. The story was shared by the New York Times, NBC News, and the Associated Press. But guess what? Almost everything in the article was false. The 90-year-old woman was never foreclosed on. She never lost her home, and it wasn't even Mnuchin's bank that brought the suit. Eventually, the story was corrected, but as is true with many of these stories, people absorb the fake news, but never the correction. On January 26th, the Washington Post's Josh Rogin dropped this bombshell, that there was a mass exodus at the State Department in protest of Donald Trump, writing that, quote, the State Department's entire management team just resigned unexpectedly. The story was shared tens of thousands of times on social media, reposted by the Washington Post, Bloomberg, and ABC News. But the truth is, this is standing operating procedure. Mark Toner, State Department spokesman, clarified, quote, as is standard with every transition, the outgoing administration, in coordination with the incoming one, requested all political appointed officers submit letters of resignation. The bottom line, Democrat appointees leave when Republican presidents come in, and Republican appointees leave when Democrat presidents take office. The entire presumption of the article was false. Now, it's no wonder the majority of Americans don't trust the media. According to an Emerson poll, 53% do not trust the press, just 39% do. But look at this. According to that same Emerson College poll, more people trust President Trump than don't trust him. Yet still, the media continues to call President Trump a liar. Roll the tape.
It's called Why Nobody Cares, the President is Lying.
That was Brian Williams, who was demoted at NBC for lying, accusing President Trump of lying. I think the irony was lost on everybody there. Now, here are some real news stories that aren't getting some attention. A new poll by Politico shows that Trump's immigration ban is one of the most popular executive orders to date, with 55% of Americans approving of it and only 38% disapproving. Also, Intel announced a $7 billion investment in Arizona, leading to 10,000 new jobs, hopefully. And the First Lady, Melania Trump, won her libel suit against fake news merchants. And then there's Ted Cruz, eviscerating Bernie Sanders over Obamacare on live TV, reducing the socialist senator to rubble.
If the problem is government is corrupt, why on earth would you want more power in Washington? I want to take power out of Washington and empower the people.
And Trump's approval ratings are strong, both over 50% in Reuters and the Rasmussen tracking polls. So there you have it. And when people complain about Trump tweeting so much, he wouldn't have to if he wasn't under constant assault from fake news. We also discovered a bit of fake news regarding the climate. Blockbuster revelations out of the NOAA that scientists conspicuously manipulated temperature data to, quote, discredit the notion of a global warming hiatus. In other words, fit the narrative that global warming is real, even if the evidence doesn't verify it. We just received a foot of snow here in New York City, so Water's World decided to go out in search of global warming.
No. Oh! What do you think about all this global warming?
It's for the birds.
You're for the birds. You know what I call all this?
Winter Wonderland?
Global warming.
It's climate change.
You know what I call climate change? The seasons. A lot of global warming out here.
As I see, as I feel.
It is winter, though, so this is what happens in winter, they say.
Occasionally you do have snowstorms in winter, Jesse. That's what I'm told. That's what Janice Dean tells me.
There is no global warming. I don't believe in it.
You don't believe in it? Oh, Al Gore's going to come find you.
Quiet. A whale is in trouble. I have to go.
Pretend it's Al Gore. Oh, you missed! You throw like a girl. I'd actually like a little more global warming. This is a little too cold for me.
Global warming has bad consequences.
Like what? I can go to the beach like all year? You just don't want to see me with my shirt off.
Well,
What do you think Al Gore's thinking about right now?
He's probably in someplace really warm.
He's probably in some island on his jet.
Exactly.
What do you
No carbon emissions from that jet, by the way.
There are always people who are going to try to aim at the messenger if they don't like the message.
Anything you want to tell Al Gore?
Have a great guy on day and night and weekend and good snow.
What are we going to do about this global warming?
I don't know. Maybe your president could do something.
Ooh, he's your president too.
No, I'm from Finland.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. You know whose fault all this snow is?
Who's that?
Trump's.
It's always Trump's fault.
Everything else is Trump's fault.
Give me a break.
Up next, they're back.
I have thought an awful lot about blowing up the White House.
What the ladies of the Women's March are now threatening to do. Plus, who's had the biggest beef of the week?
We make a move and act a fool while we up.
Around that track, so it's not just gonna happen like that, 'cause ain't no holler back, girl, ain't no holler back, girl.
So as we discussed earlier in the show, President Trump, since taking office, it seems like it's the left's job to protest, well, everything. But a big target has been women's rights. But they only seem to be fighting for women they agree with. Just watch what happens when the new Education Secretary, Betsy DeVos, tries to visit a school. Protesters verbally assaulting her and even trying to block her car from leaving. And protesters like that are planning a day without women. So, what's the point? And how does that help the unity they claim to want? Joining me now is Crystal Wright, the author of Con Job and publisher of the conservativeblackchick.com, as well as Fox News contributor Julie Roginski. Julie, can you please not strike? Please, women stay home. This country is going to unravel.
No question.
I can't have that happen. My family can't have it happen. The country, every city, every school. No, don't do it. I'm begging you.
When is it? I need a day off. I'm so tired. When am I going to get a day off? When are we supposed to strike?
Really? Come on.
Yeah, I
you, maybe we could afford losing you a day.
Yeah, you know what?
But other women, no. I don't think we can afford it.
Your life's not going to end if you don't see me for a day. Actually, it might end if I'm not here for a day.
You know what this, though? It's like it's these privileged women that show up in Dior and they say, you know, I'm not going to do anything today. But regular ladies, the ones that actually have to work with their families and take the kids to school and get everything organized, because that job is much harder than my job, they're the ones that don't care about this stuff. So these women, Crystal, are these women really speaking for the rest of the females in America or not?
No, they're not. As you pointed out, these are liberal, privileged women who wear Hermes bags that cost $5,000, $10,000. They never met an honest day's work in their life. And they have working class women working for them, right? Cleaning up their kids' vomit, cleaning up the house, making dinner for them. But they're saying, we want you to risk middle class women who voted for Trump. Primarily, we want you to risk losing your job and not taking care of your family because Hillary Clinton lost the election. She lost, get over it. Be more
Julie,
productive, women. Be more productive.
Do you believe these ladies, the tip of the spear, as they say, leading this feminist charge against Donald Trump? Do you think they're leading women in this country in the right direction?
Well, first of all, let me fact check something. An Hermes bag is about 30 grand. I wish it were 5 grand, but it's a little more than that. Just for the record.
Thanks, Julie.
Yeah, no worries. No worries in case you're looking to buy one.
No.
Secondly, look, this protest actually doesn't spill out exactly what they want women to do. It's not a matter of women not going to work. It could be a matter of women. Did you read the Lysistrata by Aristophanes, where women decided not to have conjugal relations with their husbands to end the Peloponnesian War? Could be something like that. I don't know exactly what kind of way this.
You know what? If that happens, it will bring this country to a screeching halt.
I'm just saying they're not saying necessarily don't go to work. I'm just saying there are different ways you can express your disenchantment with what's going on in the country.
And you know
right
what
now.
else they've been doing to express their disenchantment? They've really been targeting a lot of the women surrounding Donald Trump. We talked about it at the top of the show. They're going after Kellyanne. They're going after Ivanka. It's vicious. I thought women were supposed to support other women, Crystal.
Well, you're exactly right. Look what happened today to the Education Secretary, Betsy DeVos. Liberals want to have the right to express their freedom of speech, but then you have liberal women blocking her from entering a school today, attacking Kellyanne Conway for sticking up for another woman, Ivanka Trump. She's an entrepreneur. She's a mom of 3, right? I thought women, like Julie said, you know, there's different ways of working inside the home, or maybe you said it. Maybe I'm giving Julie credit for something she didn't say.
No, it's true.
But
when you had Palin out there and you had Carly Fiorina, these women are real role models, but it looks like it's more about politics than gender, right, Julie? Real quick.
No, let me say this. First of all, what happened to Betsy DeVos is inexcusable, and I said so. But secondly, and as importantly, Ivanka Trump was being, her brand was pulled because it wasn't performing well at Nordstrom's. It is wrong for the president.
Not true.
What do you mean it's not true?
We don't know statistics that show sales were up 21%. It was a political jihad against her.
It was not a political jihad.
It was a political jihad. It had nothing to do with profits.
Why did Nordstrom stock go up then, the minute it happened? Why did Nordstrom stock? The market knows.
Because Donald
you
Trump
guys love capitalism.
Kellyanne Conway mentioned
we
her
do
brand.
love capitalism, but we don't like crony capitalism. Julie,
really?
Crystal, I got to run.
Love Donald Trump.
Ladies, thank you very much. Coming up, we've got the biggest political beefs of the week, including this.
I'm not here to be your buddy. I'm here to swallow gum, and I'm here to take names.
So what does Bernard McGurk think about SNL's take on Sean Spicer? We'll find out after this. Time now for the Beef of the Week segment. Everybody from President Trump and Senator McCain to Melissa McCarthy and Sean Spicer were battling out this week. With me now to discuss them is Bernard McGurk from Imus in the Morning and co-host of the Bernie and Sid radio show. So first off, it's President Trump versus Senator McCain over the raid in Yemen that saw the loss of a Navy SEAL. On Wednesday, Senator McCain addressed what he calls a failure.
I don't think you can, when you lose a $75 million airplane, and more importantly, American lives are life is lost and wounded, I don't believe that you can call it a success.
President Trump responded on Twitter saying, Senator McCain should not be talking about the success or failure of a mission to the media. Only emboldens the enemy. He's been losing so long, he doesn't know how to win anymore. Just look at the mess our country's in, bogged down in conflict all over the place. Our hero, Ryan, died on a winning mission, according to General Mattis. Not a failure. Time for the U.S. to get smart and start winning again. So we got some of the details out of this raid. Treasure trove of intel.
That's right.
They got a bunch of laptops. They killed 14 Al-Qaeda guys. Who's right in this beef here?
Well, look, successful operations oftentimes do end up in the loss of American lives. World War II was one big major operation. We lost a lot of guys. Listen, I can't criticize Senator John Wayne McCain. I love the man.
Right.
I really do.
Great hero.
He believes in the nobility of this country, essentially. He believes in sending troops to fight the bad guys and right wrongs all over the place. But there's a new sheriff. He doesn't want to talk to Putin. A new guy in town, a new mentality that says America first.
Right, and the beef goes way back, because remember, Trump said he doesn't like his war heroes captured.
Right. Now,
so there's some
that was
history
unfortunate.
there.
It was unfortunate, but still, again, he's a good man, and I have no beef with Senator John Wayne.
Right, now they're all friends. All right, so in the same vein, President Trump ripping Connecticut Senator Richard Blumenthal for telling reporters that new Supreme Court Justice nominee Judge Neil Gorsuch said he found Trump's attacks on the judiciary disheartening and demoralizing. Here we have Senator Richard Blumenthal, who never fought in Vietnam when he said for years he had, major lie, now misrepresents what Judge Gorsuch told him. So the backstory is here, after they came out and said that this is what Gorsuch said, the White House said, he wasn't talking about what Trump said about the judiciary. He was talking in general about attacks on the judiciary.
Either way, Senator Richard Blumenthal should just lay low after what he did. Look, this guy is sick. He's Brian Williams sick. At least NBC had the good sense to yank Brian Williams off the nightly newscast and put him on 11 o'clock and their failed cable channel.
So you want to see Schumer yank Blumenthal?
Listen, this guy actually lied about serving in Vietnam, lied about it repeatedly, and the voters of Connecticut decided to send him to the Senate.
Right.
I mean, that's sick in the head. You know what? A bunch of Navy SEALs should haul this guy off to Arlington National Cemetery and allow Senator John Wayne McCain and the other Vietnam vets to kick his ass all over the graveyard.
That's a good idea.
Ask me.
And what happens in the Senate? When you lie well, you get promoted. Next up, it was Senator Warren versus Senator Sessions when she got benched on the Senate floor. Take a look.
He is, I believe, a disgrace to the Justice Department, and he should withdraw his nomination and resign his position.
Is there objection?
Object.
I appeal the ruling.
Objection is heard. The senator will take her seat.
So I think it's actually Warren who is the racist because she lied about being a Native American to get into Harvard to take another Native American spot there.
That's exactly right. Listen, and she's also, she's half out of her mind also. She makes Hillary Clinton look like Mother Teresa, this one. Between Blumenthal, Warren, fake Tia Schumer, Pelosi, and Ellison, you have liars, psychos, and Jew haters running the Democratic Party. I think they're in big trouble.
Warren on the warpath. All right, We're going to let that slide. Last and definitely best, SNL takes on White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer using Melissa McCarthy.
I'd like to begin today by apologizing on behalf of you to me. You need some props? My word's too big. When it comes to these decisions, the Constitution gives our president is the key advisor. Okay? And our president will not be deterred against radical Muslims. With that dork?
That was funny.
I think that's almost as good as Larry David doing Sanders.
That was very uncharacteristically funny for Saturday Night Live, which has turned, they're so mean-spirited and angry these days. They're not usually funny, but that was good. I don't see anything to beef about that, except for the fact that maybe it's a little emasculating to be depicted by a plus-sized woman. Maybe. I don't know. It could be. Reince Priebus maybe will be depicted by Rebel Wilson or something.
Oh, my God. Don't give him any ideas.
How about Ben Carson as by Oprah Winfrey on Thorazine?
Listen, whoever's watching at SNL, do not listen to McGurk.
Hey, look.
All right, up
Rosie
next.
O'Donnell.
Up next, we have that. Why these three Cavs players will be watching Water's World tonight. You all remember the Ice Bucket Challenge, people dumping buckets of ice water over their heads to raise awareness for ALS, otherwise known as Lou Gehrig's disease. Now there's a new challenge called the Trick Shot Challenge. Dr. Michael Honrichs was diagnosed with ALS. He's a new friend of mine, and he's fighting for survival. I went to the Patrick School in New Jersey the other day to officially kick off the Trick Shot Challenge. Take a look. So what are we doing here today?
We're at the Patrick School, home of the Fighting Celtics, a school that's rich in basketball tradition and history.
Yeah, I see a lot of hardware over here.
We're going to kick off the full court press on ALS Trick Shot Challenge right here at the Patrick School.
Well, let's see what we got. Remember, this is my world, okay? Who are you going to nominate?
Kyrie Irving, Michael Kidd, and DeAndre Brunson.
All right. That was McDonald's All-American Nick Richards. He's going to the University of Kentucky, and he just challenged 3 NBA players. But you don't have to dunk to do the Trick Shot Challenge. Anybody can do it, even me. You can even crumble up a piece of paper and toss it in your wastebasket at work. ALS Awareness Week is next week, so take the challenge. Nominate 3 people. And if you want to do something about ALS, go to Full Court Press on ALS.com, where you can donate. That is it for us tonight. Be sure to follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Justice with Judge Janine is coming up next. And don't forget, I'm Waters, and this is my world. Waters World is on tonight.
I read the papers, I see what's going on television, I see the lies.
You saw the interview, but what happened behind the scenes when O'Reilly sat down with President Trump? The No Spin Zone enters Waters World.
Fake news is the worst thing that you can call a journalist. It's like an ethnic disparagement.
The mainstream media now comparing fake news to the N-word. We'll take you through a rundown of fake stories and real news stories that you might not have heard before. And Waters World hits the snowstorm in search of global warming. And I go to the front lines of an anti-Trump protest.
The countries that he's blocked, they're not terrorist countries.
Iran's not a terrorist country?
No.
It's the #1 sponsor of terrorism in the world.
Waters World begins right now. Welcome to Waters World. I'm your host, Jesse Waters. So much happening this week. The far left is in a frenzy, and noticeably so. The leading ladies of Congress heading up the charge against President Trump, but appear to be a little flustered, making a lot of mistakes. Take a look.
When I've talked about leading him to impeachment, what I'm really saying is he has done enough in the short period of time for questions to be raised about whether or not he's acting in the best interest of this country. And the fact that he is wrapping his arms around Putin while Putin is continuing to advance into Korea.
So this, while it's only a couple of weeks since the inauguration, there's complete evidence, we've seen nothing that we can work but I can work with President Bush on.
Mr. President, I am surprised that the words of Coretta Scott King are not suitable for debate in the United States Senate. I ask leave of the Senate to continue my remarks.
Is there objection?
Object.
I appeal the ruling.
Objection is heard. The senator will take her seat.
Now, these are smart women who've been in Congress a very long time. So why do they seem rattled by this president? Bill O'Reilly leaving the no spin zone for a trip to Waters World. Oof. So these women, Trump is driving them crazy, not the way Trump usually drives women crazy. What do you think is it about Trump's style that's provoking these ladies so much?
Well, I mean, at the core of it is ideology, political ideology. They are pro-choice ladies. That's always a big thing.
But he's not a pro-life guy.
No, but he has made it clear that he's gone over to that camp, that he wants judges that will be favorable to the pro-life people. So you start there, and then you know, the president's been demonized in certain quarters about his conduct. And so there isn't any common ground. That's the key. No common ground between Nancy Pelosi, Maxine Waters, and Donald Trump. None.
Do you think that the Democratic Party has a strategy to push these women to be the vanguard of the anti-Trump movement, or are they just getting excited and they're just taking the lead?
They're playing to their constituency. They have very liberal districts, and you know, they're feminists, I guess, and they're playing to their people.
And these so-called feminists are attacking every single woman aligned with Trump. They're going after Betsy DeVos, the education woman. They're going after Ivanka now. Now Kellyanne Conway's in the crosshairs.
Absolutely.
I thought these women are supposed to like other women in power.
Not if they disagree with them politically.
So it's all politics.
Well, you saw in the Women's March that the